Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Rob from Showdown, and today we are doing Anime Gauntlets Part 7. Let's do it, man. But before we get right into that, I want to say that a lot of you guys asked me to continue the gauntlets even after the losing round, so I'm gonna have to go through this just a little bit quicker. But let's do it. First up, we have a Whitebeard Gauntlet. I'm hyped for this one. You already know how I feel about Whitebeard. First up, he's going up against Escanor from 7 Deadly Sins. And this one is a very, very tough one. And let me tell you why. Escanor in the one ultimate was boxing against Demon King Zeldris. Let me repeat that this ability is beyond the ability that he used against Assault Mode Meliodas that put him out of commission. That same attack that he used that cut the dimension against Meliodas was only the base form of the one. But now we're talking about the one ultimate that is not only relying on Escanor's life force, but his magic as well. So he's losing life as he's boxing. Who wins? Well, it's not as easy as you think it is. Because when we talk about somebody like Whitebeard, somebody that was noted by Sengoku to have the power to destroy the One Piece world, the Quake fruit that can literally cause tsunamis to go crazy, Whitebeard having the physical strength to throw giants around like tissue paper, this is not somebody that can be taken lightly, and neither is Escanor. Now, when it comes to physical strength, physical abilities, I think they're pretty much equal. They are very, very close. We've seen Escanor tank attacks that cut a mountain when we saw his battle against Galland. We've seen Escanor use Cruel Sun to evaporate an entire lake. But when we talk about Whitebeard, we've seen the tsunamis going crazy everywhere around Marineford. Who wins in a battle? I'm going to have to say probably Whitebeard. And it's not as easy for me because if we look at the gauntlet, I'm just going to say Escanor has no business being in round 1. There are people that are after Escanor that would lose to Escanor in this gauntlet. I'm just going to put that out there. But this battle is going to come down to a battle of attrition because neither one, I believe, can overpower the other. Their strength level is just unreal. But the thing is that I believe Escanor is going to have to use the one ultimate to fight in a battle against Whitebeard. And when we talk about who can last the longest, it's going to be Whitebeard. Listen, Whitebeard is a person that took multiple wounds in a war, got attacked by everybody, admirals, everything you can name, and died standing up. Escanor, on the other hand, with the one ultimate, is going to be losing his life force as he's battling, so he's going to be on a time constraint. He's losing. Let's go on to round 2, and we have Hashirama, the first Hokage, in the Edo Tensei form. Who's winning? Well, Whitebeard's winning. And it has nothing to do with Hashirama being weak. Again, this is somebody that I believe is one of the top fighters in the Naruto verse. When we talk about his regenerative cells being robbed by all the shinobi around the world, everybody wants the Hashirama cells because it can heal them. But even if he's in the Sage mode, I don't think he has the power to stand up to Whitebeard. And that only is because Whitebeard's durability is unbelievable. The amount of wood golem attacks that Hashirama would have to land on Whitebeard just for Whitebeard to even feel anything and to keep going is unreal. He's obviously craftier, he has a lot more of abilities at his disposal, but Whitebeard, again, his durability is just ridiculous. In his old age, he was still fighting people at an elite level, was still causing tsunamis to go crazy. This is not somebody that Hashirama can just blow over. In round 3, we're looking at Acnologia from Fairy Tail. Now, this is somebody that was boxing against a whole bunch of Dragon Slayers. We've seen Natsu be able to take him down, but that was only because Laxus, Sting, Rogue, Gajeel, Wendy, everybody was just powering up Natsu with their abilities to give Natsu the edge over Acnologia. Acnologia is somebody that made all of the rest of the Dragon Slayers look light. He is the Dragon King. He goes crazy. Who wins? If we're talking about Acnologia fighting against Whitebeard in that time-space realm that he had the advantage in, maybe it would go to Acnologia. But if we're talking about any other instance, if it's outside of that, I'm not sure if Acnologia can really find a way to take down Whitebeard, because once the Quake fruit is put into his body, that is something that he has no answer for. And if we start to bring in Ryo Haki, Conqueror's Haki, and things of that nature, Acnologia again does not have an answer for any of those abilities. So I'm not sure how he's going to win unless he's in that realm. Do we want to count the realm for this battle? I don't think we should. So I think Whitebeard would win this battle, and we move on to round 4. All Might is done. Once Whitebeard steps into the My Hero verse, everybody's running for their lives. I'm sorry, it is what it is. I've seen the United States of Smash, and it was cute. but it was nothing on the level of what Whitebeard did when he first arrived at Marineford. Had 2 tsunamis going off on both sides, had everybody running for their lives, going crazy. If Admiral Aokiji was not there to freeze the water, who knows what would have happened to Marineford? It would have been flipped upside down. This is a devil fruit power that Blackbeard fought so hard to obtain because he himself wanted to destroy Marineford. This is something that All Might, especially out of his prime, if we looked into the gauntlet, cannot hang with Whitebeard because we know he has a career-ending injury. His durability is nowhere near where Whitebeard's was at Marineford. Lastly, we're going with Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen, and this is where Whitebeard loses. I'm sorry, but he doesn't have a shot, and it's not because Whitebeard is not more powerful, but the hacks that Gojo has in his pocket is just unreal. I mean, once he goes into his domain expansion, what can Whitebeard really do? He can't really get close to him, he can't really touch him. I'm not sure how Conqueror's Haki is going to even work in that domain, if that's going to even have any type of effect. I don't know if Observation Haki is going to give him something that he can use to really fight Gojo on an even playing field. So Gojo is going to end up beating Whitebeard strictly off of his domain expansion. Let's keep going. Whew, we got King running the gauntlet from 7 Deadly Sins. So I'm just going to ignore all other forms of King. I'm going straight to full winged form King that was going up against Mael. Let's see what happens. First up, he's going up against Noelle from Black Clover. Noelle is incredibly powerful. We've seen her improve so much to the point that she was the forefront of the fight against Vanica. Her Valkyrie form, her mermaid form, everything looked crisp as hell, but it cannot stand up to full winged King. When King is in that form, there is nothing that Noelle has in her arsenal right now to hang with the chastity fold, because there's so many different forms of it. There's so many different abilities that King can go to. He stomps. Next up, we have Doflamingo, and it's going to be the same outcome. Now, I know that Doflamingo obviously has Conqueror's Haki. We've seen that used in the fight against Luffy, and we also have seen that Doflamingo can actually clone himself. So these are things that he would be able to use against King. It would make the battle a little bit more interesting, but in the end, he's not getting past the Guardian form of chastity fold, the second form, I believe. That is where you have the creature form that is literally throwing punches and boxing and going crazy. I'm not sure what Doflamingo is going to be doing with that. Next up, we have Charmy, which she can win. Let me explain. King, as we know, is a user of magic. Charmy's ability allows her to absorb magic and absorb mana from her opponents and then harness that energy and use it to fight them. Now, if Charmy is able to go into her dwarf form and absorb the magic and use the wolf and go crazy, King can lose. Do I believe King would lose to Charmy in this manner? I'm probably gonna say no. And that's only because when King is in this mode, he was fighting against Mael, but not just a standard Mael. This is Mael with the commandments. He's even more boosted up and more stronger than he was prior. And King was at the forefront of this battle. So his strategic sense improved, his physical prowess improved, his abilities improved. I don't think he would fall for Charmy's gimmicks. But again, if he did fall for it, Charmy would win. Next up is Katakuri. And I believe it comes down to the same thing. We know that Katakuri, one of his biggest advantages is observation haki. With the future sight, he can look into the future slightly and see attacks coming. And we also know that King is going to have a tough time trying to land attacks on Katakuri because of this ability, but it's not really gonna matter because King can just trap him in the pollen garden that he has. And this is what makes King super versatile. If he can just seal him into that pollen garden technique, Katakuri doesn't have an answer to get out. Next, we have Noelle from Black Clover, who has the Mercury power. It's intense, it's nice, but it can't really do anything to King. I don't see, even though it's free form magic, when we've seen it being used against Dark Elf Patriot, it was actually pretty intense. But again, when we look at the Magic Knight Captains tournament, Noelle wasn't really showing out, nothing crazy from there. So I think King would actually end up defeating him as well. Then we go on to Blackbeard. Blackbeard wins. And it's not really easy for me to say this, but when you're talking about somebody that not only has a dark fruit, but steals the fruit of Whitebeard, it's game over. You have Whitebeard on one hand, you have the dark fruit on the other. You can literally absorb techniques while throwing quake fruit powers outside of it. It's too much for King. It's way too much for King. Now, one thing I want to mention is that we have not seen very great demonstration of Blackbeard's haki. We don't know what his haki level is looking like, but just having those two insanely powerful devil fruit powers together is just, it's too much right now for King. I don't see King dealing with that. So I actually have him losing to Blackbeard in round 6. But again, y'all want me to continue, so we're gonna go on to Aokiji. And do I believe King can defeat Aokiji? I would say it's situational, just like the Katakuri one, because again, he's not going to be able to land those techniques on him because Aokiji has a Logia Devil Fruit. But if he's able to seal him into the Pollen Garden technique, I believe that King could win. So it's situational. Maybe I would give it to King, maybe not. We have to see. And then lastly, Dorothy. King has no shot. If Dorothy puts King into her dream world, there's literally nothing King has in his arsenal to get outside of that. There's nothing he has. He can't rip through the dimension. We have not seen King do anything on that level. He would have to fight himself in there, multiple versions of himself. It's just a lot for him to deal with. So I believe Dorothy and Blackbeard 100% are stomping King. And then Aokiji maybe, Katakuri maybe, but that's where I'm at right now. Let's move on to the next gauntlet. 2 of the monster trio. Let's do it, man. I'm ready. Sanji and Zoro as a duo are running this gauntlet. First up, we're going up against the big 3 of Class 1A, and that's a stomp. That's a stomp. I'm sorry. I'm not sure what Todoroki, Bakugo, and Deku are going to be bringing to the table in this type of matchup. But when we talk about Zoro with the Enma sword, and we're talking about Reitsu Sanji, who can go invisible, who can shield, who can block, who can go crazy, they don't have anything that can really keep up with them. At least not yet. In the manga, maybe, but I'm not even giving them that edge. Round 2, we're going up against Pain, specifically the Diva Path of Pain. Now, this was the Shinra Tensei on the Leaf Village Pain. This was the Pain that was boxing against Naruto with the 8 tails. This Pain is unreal. But Zoro and Sanji in a duo are fighting against this Diva Path Pain. Now, maybe you could say Pain would win if all the 6 paths are there. I would give that maybe. But if it's just the Diva Path, it's getting stomped up. I'm telling you right now. Listen, Reitsu Sanji is the X factor in this fight. It's not going to be Zoro. And it has to be because Soba Mask can go invisible. What is the Diva Path doing against that? Doesn't have really any answers for that. And if Sanji can go invisible, the combo attacks between him and Zoro is just, the possibilities are endless. So I'm giving them the edge for that round as well. Let's move on to Aokiji fighting against Reitsu Sanji and Zoro, and I'm probably gonna have to give it to Reitsu Sanji and Zoro because their haki is now on a level that they're able to fight against some of the top lead performers, Yonko and things like that. They have really improved in the new world, and I think that Aokiji, we have not seen any improvements from the time he fought Akainu and lost. We have not seen anything. We've seen him threaten Doflamingo a little bit, but nothing really crazy. And I just believe that this type of duo of Zoro and Sanji, who have seen each other's abilities throughout the entire course of the One Piece series, they would be able to come up with some creative techniques. Next up in the 4th round, we have Ace and Marco as a duo going up against Zoro and Sanji. Now, I don't know, y'all. I mean, Marco is incredible. Ace, we have not seen the demonstrations of haki, but the fact that he decided that he wanted to pull up on Blackbeard. Now, let me say this. Ace and Marco have both had their 1v1s against Blackbeard. Both of them lost, but there's a difference in the Blackbeard that they fought. The Blackbeard that Marco fought had Whitebeard's Devil Fruit. The Blackbeard that Ace fought didn't have Whitebeard's Devil Fruit. How do I think Zoro and Sanji would fare against an opponent like Blackbeard? They would both end up losing to Blackbeard, absolutely. But the reason why I bring up their Blackbeard fights is because we have to get a closer look at how their abilities will work together. Marco's Devil Fruit is a mythical zone. He'll be able to heal not only himself, but Ace, if Ace is taking damage. Reitsu, Sanji, and Zoro don't have anything that they can use to heal each other. Now, Sanji can use the shield that comes with the raid suit to protect himself against certain attacks, and he can go invisible. Zoro is just gonna have to go off his durability, which we know is insane, but is it on the level of a Marco from the Whitebeard Pirates, who was fighting against Blackbeard after he got Whitebeard's Devil Fruit in the Payback War? And even though they lost, Marco is here now in Wano. I'm probably gonna have to give it to Ace and Marco. And it's not easy for me to say because I believe that Zoro is arguably the strongest out of the 4 characters we're talking about. But the Marco and Ace duo just sounds ridiculous right now. I need to see a little bit more hockey feats from Sanji. And the fact that they will be able to heal each other because Marco can heal with the Phoenix Devil Fruits is kind of tough for me to really say that Zoro and Sanji are going to end up winning this without some top tier hockey coming from the side of Sanji. Now, to finish this gauntlet out, we have Endeavor and All Might going up against Sanji and Zoro. I probably want to say Sanji and Zoro, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure about this one. This one is a very, very tough one because All Might and Endeavor have a crazy power output, but their durability is not on the level of Sanji and Zoro. And that is really just going to come down to how long they can last in a fight. And let me say this. If Sanji does not have his raid suit, I believe Endeavor and All Might may be able to win. But if Sanji has a raid suit and he's able to go invisible and he really is able to mix them up and go crazy, I believe that he can actually disrupt them enough that Zoro and Sanji would be able to end up winning. Lastly, we have Yami from Black Clover, and they're losing to Yami. I don't see them beating Yami right now because outside of Yami's Dimension Slash, we can discuss the fact that his Mana Zone was going up against Dante, and he has an ability where if you are in this circle, there is nothing you can do to really counteract that. The amount of strides he has made after he trained with Leona is like night and day how crazy he's gotten now. So his speed is there, his dark magic has improved tremendously. Yami is on a different level, and I do believe that Zoro would push him to the edge, but I'm not sure how Sanji is going to really end up battling Yami after that. I just don't see Yami losing this matchup right here. But again, I have them losing at round 4 to the Ace and Marco duo. Let's go on to the last one. All right, so we got Luffy running the gauntlet here, y'all. Let's do it. It looks like Gear 4 Luffy. I don't know if we can go into different forms like Snake Man, but we'll see what happens. Round 1, he has Killua. Killua gets stomped. Killua is incredibly powerful. We've seen the electric type Nen powers. We've seen Godspeed Killua. We've seen him able to paralyze, but it wouldn't even work on Luffy anyway because Luffy is rubber, so he would end up losing here. Then we can move on to round 2. It looks like we have Fushiguro from Jujutsu Kaisen. It's another L. He's not hanging with Luffy right now. We've seen Nue. We've seen his abilities with the Shinigami. He's great when it comes to strategy. I'll give Fushiguro that, but he's not hanging with Luffy. Durability-wise, hockey-wise, it's too much for Megami to deal with right now. Round 3, we have Eren. I don't know why Eren's here. Eren has no business being here. We know he acquired the Warhammer Titan and things like that, so he's obviously improved his abilities over time, but it's Luffy, y'all. It's Luffy. If Luffy steps into AOT, everyone's gone. So I don't know what we're talking about here. Let's move on to round 4. We have Asta from Black Clover. Now, post-time skip Asta is looking nasty. Because Luffy's able to see into the future slightly with observation haki, and he has top-tier armament haki as well, I think that Asta would have an issue dealing with that. I don't know how Asta's looking in the manga, but towards the end of the anime so far, I believe that Luffy would end up beating Asta. Not off of speed though, because Asta, I believe, might be faster than Luffy, but just the fact that Luffy's armament haki is something that is ridiculous. And if we talk about the Ryo haki going through Asta's mana skin, it's GG's. Lastly, we have Natsu from Fairy Tail. Now look, I brought this battle up on many occasions, and it comes down to the same thing every single time for me. If we say haki equals magic, Luffy wins. If it does not, Natsu wins. Natsu's feats so far in the Fairy Tail verse have surpassed Luffy in terms of him being able to burn time against Zero, him being able to put in work against people like Acnologia. Again, he had a lot of help, but Acnologia is incredibly powerful as well, so we have to give him credit where credit is due there, and his fire techniques are second to none. If we let Luffy's haki work on the fire magic, Natsu's not going to have a lot of techniques in his arsenal to keep up with Luffy, but if we say it doesn't work, Natsu would win. But for the sake of this gauntlet right now, just because we don't have the conditions set, I'm going to give the edge to Natsu. I believe Natsu can win. He's burned time. That's a crazier feat than anything I've seen Luffy be able to do, but it really comes down to those conditions. Would haki work? Would haki not work? We would have to see. Now, you guys let me know down in the comment section below. Which gauntlets do you agree with, disagree with? Again, guys, we are almost at 100K. Appreciate you guys for all the love and support. This is insane. Shout out to the Discord. Shout out to the people on their Instagram, on Twitter. Everybody's just been showing love. It's ridiculous what's going on. Appreciate y'all for real. Let's keep going. Thank you. Peace.